Привет, друзья! Welcome back to Be Fluent in Russian show, your help through this Russian journey. Today, we have two great, major topics of discussion. Number one, I'll be talking about my experience with English, how I got fluent in English. I think it's going to be important for you guys to realize my mistakes and not to make them in your own Russian journey. And secondly, how to treat practical application of Russian, how to apply practice for learning purposes. So, before we start, of course, if you have any questions, put them in the comments because I will review the comments that we have under each show. For example, today we have a comment that reads, can you make a video with examples of where grammar is more important to be understood and where it is less? I will make a video, sorry about that, but I'll explain it here. So we have a number of different topics, and I think that the grammar plays a bigger part in the more beginner grammar rules. Like, for example, conjugation. If I say, я люблю тебя, right? Which means I love you. If you mess up on this word люблю, on the ending of it, and you say, я любишь тебя, now it's not so clear who loves who. Is this a question? Are you saying, do you love me now? The person listening will be left guessing what you meant. And that's not what you want in the conversation. You want clarity. And the conjugation is one of those rules where we can sometimes even omit the first word я and say люблю тебя, love you. And here, especially if you say любишь тебя, this will sound like, do you love yourself? Kind of more of a philosophical question. So conjugation is one of those rules where it truly, truly matters. Another one is with cases and personal pronouns. Let me explain. Again, он пришел ко мне. He came to me. He came to my house to say hi or whatever. This ко мне here is put in a certain case and it's a personal pronoun. If you would have said он пришел меня to mean the same thing, this could be understood as he came without me. Did you forget to add без меня, without me? Он пришел меня. What does this even mean? So there will be a lot of confusion with personal pronouns and their forms in cases. Because here's the table of all of them in different cases. You see how different they are, right? You see how they change from case to case and things like that. So you need to be accurate with cases and personal pronouns. Not so much with other words. Let's say, if you said, он забрал книгу, he picked up his book. This U at the end is cases. It's an ending of a case. If you said, он забрал книга, it still would have been easy to understand you if you made that mistake. Okay? So for personal pronouns, cases, and conjugation, these things truly, truly matter. Not as much with other topics. I guess sometimes with prefixes, but that's more of like an advanced topic. At that point, you will know that you're messing up. For starters, for a beginner, those two topics are the ones to watch out for. And now, let's talk about how I got fluent in Russian. Let me move this laptop away. I don't need any of my notes because I lived it. So, I'll be talking about my journey in English, and I also will bring it back to you guys. Certain things that you should do as well, certain things that you should avoid. And yeah, let's just have a conversation to where you can just listen and draw your own conclusions as well. So here's how it started. We learn English in school. How in the US you will learn Spanish. We learn English in school. But just like Spanish doesn't give you any results to speak Spanish in the US, same in Russia. English lessons are weak. They're not really that good because the teachers themselves don't speak English. The teachers only know the grammar part of the language, not even the spoken language. None of them even ever travel to an English-speaking country. You know, it's not a well-paid job. So English in schools is very weak. But I took an extra class in the first couple of grades. I studied English before anybody else did in my class, so I was always a level above them. But those are my peers who also didn't know English that well, so I was above a very low standard. But I always had this feeling that I could speak English better than others, which also gave me this motivation to keep on learning it. If I only knew how wrong I was about this positive outlook on my English, I would have probably never studied it. But it gave me an extra boost of motivation, of confidence, and I went for it. So, first 7 years of my school, from grade number 1 to grade number 7, I studied just like everybody else, not speaking well, nothing. This is a foundation for me. This is something that I did to get familiar with the language. The alphabet was no longer foreign to me. I could understand basic words like cat, dog, rain, snow, sun, cloud, things like that, right? So a lot of the basic words over the 7-year period became very intuitive to me. This is very different from you guys. A lot of you guys are starting your Russian journey with the alphabet. You have never seen a Russian word. You have never heard a Russian word. Maybe like привет and пока, that's it. So for you, the next steps will be different from me. Because in Russia, we have English influence a lot. We have songs in English. We have signs in English. We have sometimes even movies with English in the background that are dubbed into Russian. So we have a lot more English in our lives than you have Russian. So don't compare my next steps with your current steps, because I already had that foundation of sorts. And it really helped me then polish my English. It will be very different for you in your Russian. Take maybe the first year to just get familiar with the language, get familiar with Russian, get familiar with the alphabet, get familiar with the most basic words. Study all the A1 level words first, get familiar with the most basic stuff. Like I said, cat, dog, rain, snow, cook, run, go, things like that. So that those things are not something that you have to recall and take a lot of time to remember. They're going to be automatic like this. So the first couple of years for you will be that foundation building that I had stretched out over my whole life before I learned English, all the way till maybe it was like 14. So it's a bit of a difference in our foundation. Okay, let's start there. Then I realized I don't want to study in Russia. Russian universities are too difficult. I see my brother struggling. I see my other peers struggling through a university. And I found out that I could play tennis, which I did from a very young age. I could play tennis for a university in the US and get a scholarship. So that's what I did. I went to the US. But before I even took any exams, I realized that my English wasn't that good for me to go into a whole different country to speak English there, to study in that language. More importantly, I had to take tests, SAT, and English as a foreign language kind of test as well. And I started studying seriously. My parents hired a tutor that I saw twice a week. I went to his office, we studied, and he only spoke English, which helped my foundational English to rise up. But I didn't speak as much. I only spoke short sentences. Yes, no, understand, okay. It was never a conversation. He gave me the instructions in English. It was never a conversation with me and him, which I then realized that was wrong about our studies. Later in our conversation, I'll talk about that. And we studied English together for about a year, primarily focusing on grammar and a little bit on vocabulary, which goes against my whole approach to Russian right now, to teaching Russian right now, which I will also explain. You need to let grammar take second priority. Number one is your vocabulary. Number two is speaking. Number two is using your Russian and your language in practice. Grammar is a supplementary thing. Grammar is the how you form sentences, how you structure them. But you have to have materials to structure a house. Why don't you have material in words to structure your speaking? It doesn't make any sense. You're building up this structure, but you don't have concrete or you don't have any bricks to lay. What's going on? So the same thing here. We perfected my grammar. I can tell you, present perfect continuous. I have been doing, I have done, I had been doing kind of structures, but I could never even speak. So what's the point of me learning those complicated structures if I cannot say, I am lost, I need help, things like that? What's the point? And we perfected those things to a T. learning every grammar rule there is, thinking that that's what's going to get me to understand English. That was not even tested by the test that I was taking. That was not even there. They were more conversational as well. And then 1 year before I went to a university, I lost connection with that teacher. I think he had some family problems. So I was left by myself for a year before I went to a university, which wasn't that bad. I really appreciated that time because I started learning the real English, watching YouTube. That's all I did. I didn't speak as much. I was speaking in my head. I was saying some things in my head. However, I already had a great foundation of vocabulary from my school time. So I already had some things in my head. The speaking would have helped, but it wasn't like if I didn't speak, I would never speak again, So the English videos really, really helped me understand what a real American is going to sound like to me when I get there. And so I watched a lot of Good Mythical Morning. Right here, you see a screenshot on the screen. It's just a conversational-based show, which was incredible for me because I didn't have a conversation in my ear ever. That was the first. And they're pretty light, very positive, very family-friendly as well. They're not using a lot of slang. They're not speaking too fast, I would say. It was a great learning material for me. Don't assume that you can just find a YouTube show right now and start listening to it and learn Russian that way. I already had a great foundation to begin with. I already had grammar stuff. I already had maybe A2 level vocabulary. That was still very difficult for me to understand. However, I already had a good foundation. If you are just a beginner and you don't have your foundation yet, like A1, A2-ish, you'll be wasting your time on those shows. Why? They're too difficult. It's like you're lifting up a weight that's on the floor that is like a ton of kilos. You cannot lift that up. It doesn't matter how hard you try. And you lifting it up is not going to build the muscles that you want to build. First, reduce the difficulty. Do a few reps of easier material, like learner's materials, slow podcasts, maybe monologues, maybe voiced cartoons. Maybe you read a text and you listen to the audio at the same time. There's many things that you can do to reduce that difficulty. If you go for the native content, you'll be taking so long to reach fluency. So reduce the load for now and then go for those materials because I already had a pretty good level at that time already. Now, it's over. My studying is over. It's game time. I go to the US. I land in New York and I was supposed to take a bus to my university, Hampton University. I land and I get to downtown New York and I'm looking for the address that they gave me on a piece of paper. I don't have any connection, any internet. That was 2014. I didn't have a phone that had an internet connection yet. I didn't buy it there. And so I'm looking at this address and I'm standing right at it and I don't see a bus stop. So I start to panic. I walk around a block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. It's nowhere to be found. Then I start asking people, hey, I have this address. Where is the bus stop? First, I was so shy and I was so scared to ask a question. My life depended on it. And I couldn't ask a question. And then whatever they responded back to me, I had no idea what they said. None. I didn't know what they said at all. So here I was walking around, about to get lost and miss my bus. And I cannot understand what they're saying. A basic question. Luckily, I was standing in the right spot and there was just no bus stop, but like a meeting point. So I see a bus. First, I see people lining up for the bus. I was like, yes, thank God. And then I see a bus around the corner. I was like, oh my God. Thank God that it happened. And thank God that I didn't get lost. Really lucky that I didn't get lost. Then my first 5 months, my first semester at a university. And that's my turning point for English. I couldn't understand the first couple of weeks of lectures. Thank God they weren't too difficult. Thank God I could study them. I could study the materials with the books. My first semester was bad. I really got like a few C's, some B's, and some A's. And it was not that good. But the effort is what mattered. And I think that a lot of teachers were lenient because they realized that my English wasn't as good. They gave me extra work to do and things like that, so I wouldn't get a bad grade altogether. I didn't fail any courses, thank God, but I could study in the dorm with the textbooks. The lectures, I didn't understand much. But this constant exposure to the language really helped me. And I really got a lot of my vocabulary from that. I would say that I already had maybe like 60% of vocabulary that I needed somewhere in my brain. And by that constant repetition from professors, from my peers, from my teammates, I got the vocabulary up a little bit. But I already had a lot of vocabulary in my head, which for a lot of you guys, if you just simply travel to Russia, it's not going to be the same. You won't have as much exposure. If you go to a university and you have your Russian friends and things like that, then yes. But if you're going to Russia as a tourist with maybe like speaking for 1% of your time in Russia and listening to Russian for like 5%, the rest you're just walking around looking at stuff in Russia, it's not the same level of exposure. If you really want a great exposure in the Russian language, university is a great thing. You can go to study courses that are in Russia, in Russian, learning Russian. And they have a lot of practical courses there too. Or just meet new friends, meet friends on the street, meet friends online, and talk to them. You have to get your conversational Russian out. You cannot just be in the country expecting to speak. I have a ton of friends in the US who were parents of foreigners, immigrants who came to the US. And the parents, after like 30 years, 40 years of living in the US, still don't speak English. How? Because they live in their family, they live in their community, they barely hear English, they barely speak English, and they don't learn it. So by your presence in the country, you don't really accomplish anything. And good news, the immersion can happen from the comfort of your own home too. You don't have to travel these days. You have FaceTime, you can talk to a person on the phone, you can watch YouTube that Russians are watching, you can listen to Russian radio, you can do everything that you can do in Russia while you're still at your home. So it's really not just a matter of being in a country, it's a matter of wanting that immersion. So I can guarantee you that if you just think about how can I immerse myself in Russia more, you can find ideas pretty quickly. So you don't have to travel to Russia for that reason. And there I am. My first semester is over. And that's when I realized that, oh, it's been maybe like a week or two of me not understanding stuff, of me having to ask for them to repeat themselves. I kind of get it. I'm blending in. I'm speaking well. I'm doing good. But what has changed? There was one turning point. Two turning points. Number one, we went to a bar. I was underage and I drank. I'm sorry, but that happened. I drank some beer and we talked about movies. We talked about music and I was speaking fast. I was going at it. I was doing no problem whatsoever. And they understood me. They were laughing at my jokes. They were adding to my point. I understood them. They understood me. The 2 beers that I had helped me open up a bit. But then the next day, I'm back in my own dorm. And here I am, speaking to my teammates again. And again, I'm having trouble. Again, I cannot get the words out. I'm overcomplicating things with grammar. I'm speaking too perfectly, too properly. And I came back and I remember this moment like it was yesterday. I'm looking at my dorm in the bathroom. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm saying, why? Just yesterday, I was speaking fine with those 2 beers. Why can't I speak now? What happened? And that's when I realized that because I relaxed due to alcohol, I relaxed. I didn't care about how I was received. If I made mistakes, I didn't care because the beers did that part for me. But when I'm sober, I care about this stuff. And I realized that I'm going to just simply relax and let the words flow out of my mouth like I don't care about it. And I just started speaking, yapping away, joking, having fun. And it happened. It really did. My internal block was stopping me from speaking, stopping me from enjoying myself, and me relaxing as if I'm always a little bit tipsy, right? Without the drinks, really helped my English. And the second thing that I realized, kind of early on in the first semester, was that I'm speaking too properly. I'm speaking the way I learned English. Why don't I just copy the way my friends, my teammates talk? For example, we can be in the cafeteria together in a big group, and they can say things like, I don't know, I don't feel like it. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't feel like it. I just don't get it. What does it mean? I don't understand it word to word. But I realize that the context that they're using it in is similar to like, I don't want it. So why don't I just stop analyzing what they're trying to say and just say the same thing when I don't want to do something? And I started doing that. I started absorbing their English and using it myself with slang phrases, with conversational phrases, with everything. And it really helped me. It helped me a whole lot because I realized that they're speaking the right English. I'm speaking the book English that nobody cares about. And so me copying them over a long period of time, like months, and me relaxing did the trick. Mind you, I already had a great foundation to begin with. So you have to get to that point for you to then relax, for you to then copy natives. And from then on, it was just me speaking English without any additional lessons, without any additional focus. I could pick up the language from speaking to people or listening to different podcasts, different movies, different shows. I would learn new words through that. It's not a lot. Maybe I would say in the past, like 10 years of me speaking English, I learned maybe like 10% more words than I did before. A lot of the work really came at my school time and before I went to a university and within the first 2 years of college. After that, not as much because I just simply didn't need it. I'm diving deeper into the Russian culture, into the Russian literature. I don't do as much with English. I have a good conversational level English, and I don't, from a profession, for Be Fluent, I don't need as much of English anymore. I need more Russian. And so that has been my focus ever since then, really. And that is all. I hope you could learn something from that, and I hope that you won't make the same mistakes as I did. And so things that I'm teaching here on the Fluent in Russian channel is focusing on conversation. Forget about grammar. Who cares about it? If you are making sense and natives understand you, who cares if you're making a mistake? Nobody cares really. And so we have to get to that point in your Russian as well, so that your grammar can be a supplement to your speaking. And now let's talk about speaking and listening, our transition into a second topic of discussion for today. How do you do the practical route? How do you learn through practice and not always through the books? First, as you can probably tell already, you have to get to a good level of Russian to begin with. Take care of your A1. Start taking care of A2 level words first. Don't do this before. Don't do this while you're doing A1 level words. Focus more on the vocabulary building. Because how can you speak without having the words for it? Then start challenging your own knowledge with speaking. You don't have to have a partner, by the way. It can just be between you and the microphone, you and a phone. Record yourself. Just think of any topic. Any topic. Let's say right now, camera, microphone, laptop, lights, a wall, a window. I can start describing those things. Okay, this microphone, I'm using this to record. It's red, it's black, it's standing, and I like it. Short and sweet. Camera, same thing. Window, same thing. Weather, same thing. You can start describing anything you like. Then talk about your actions, maybe what you plan to do for the day, what you did yesterday, things like that. So there's an unlimited amount of topics that you can think of. Just be creative. Don't think of the more general travel, movies, music. Those are more difficult in my opinion. Those are more hypothetical and figurative topics versus real objects in front of you. Much easier to talk about those. And as you get more comfortable with speaking to yourself, then you start to add partners to speak with. There's a ton of language exchange apps one search away. Just search language exchange apps and you will see the results there. There's a ton of different apps, websites. It's no problem to find that these days. And you can find a partner easily, especially if you speak English. Imagine how many people who speak Russian that want to speak English there are. A ton. You can find a partner easily and a good partner at that too. Then, how can you do the listening part? Now you took care of the speaking, you speak regularly. Now let's talk about listening. Listening is the same thing. You have to find a listening material that's of your level. Aim for 20% of understanding to maybe 70% of understanding. So don't go lower than 20, don't go higher than 70. If you go for material that you understand 5% of, you don't have enough for you to practice. It's just simply going over your head. There's not a lot to cling on. But if you're also going for a material that is so easy that you understand 90% of, that's not learning anymore. That's just entertainment. That's just enjoyment. So go for something that's somewhere in between. So you can be challenged, but also it's not going to be too hard that you cannot even keep up. For starters, for a lot of you who are just beginning, songs is a great start. Learners materials like podcasts for learners. We have one. There's a ton more as well for like short stories, simple stories, slow stories, things like that. Learners materials and songs. Then for all of you guys, a step above that, it can be, you can start listening to songs without the lyrics. You can start listening to more real life Russian, also podcasts too, but more of real life, faster Russian, increase the difficulty. Cartoons can also be watched at this level too. If you're a beginner, cartoons don't always use simple words. They typically speak slower and more clearly, but the words may also be pretty difficult. And then if you go with the level above that, you can start watching Russian content made for Russians, not for learners. It's going to be easy. Once you start with the songs and the podcasts for learners, it's easy to make that transition to the higher levels. I'm telling you that. But you have to do those two things. It's a must. You will learn a lot more through practical than you learn through consuming stuff, through just books and grammar and vocabulary. You will learn the vocabulary, but most importantly, when you listen, when you speak, individual words that you learn from a dictionary, from a book, become one. They get connected into sentences, into meaning now. Okay? And I hope that this makes sense. And now let's move on to the vocabulary for the week. This vocabulary list is brought to you by Be Fluent, our website for learners, and our app for Android users as of today. We're working on the Apple app right now. So, website, you see right here, we have vocabulary reading stuff for you guys to learn vocabulary. Plus, we have Russian step by step. I believe in this course wholeheartedly. It will take you from your point, maybe it's the alphabet, all the way to the more complicated topics of Russian with speaking practice, with listening practice, with everything. Not just grammar. Like right here, you see we learn from a native's content, from an interview. We learn from them, we break it down. There's a ton of things for pronunciation, different things that you will enjoy 100%, and it will take you to the next level of your Russian. Check it out for free for 7 days. It's a free trial with the first link in the description and see if you like it or not. If you don't, you can always opt out without being charged a dime. But here's the vocabulary. Number one, and this will also be the learning materials, the learning vocabulary, мотивация. Мотивация is, of course, motivation. Мотивация. And notice мотивация. Again, to go back of our to our previous show, мотивация, a lot of us as well. Погружение, immersion. Погружение is in fact immersion in the water, submersion, and immersion in the language too. Погружение. Ошибка is a mistake. Ошибка. Don't be afraid to make those. Ошибка. Навык is a skill. Навык. More typically, of course, referring to a physical skill like playing an instrument, doing something with hands, but also can be referring to a mental skill too. Упорство is diligence. Упорство is consistency and diligence, and a little bit of stubbornness with this word too, kind of a lot of things being in one, but it's used to say that you're doing something for a long time, despite if you have or don't have results. Упорство. Память is memory. Память. Simple enough. Лексика. Lexica is lexicon or vocabulary, and your vocabulary list that you have, lexica, typically referring to a list of words that you use, not what you have in your head, but the vernacular or the vocabulary that you have that you use on a daily basis. Next, слушание. Слушание is listening. Слушание. Страх is a fear. It's what I felt when I was in New York asking for directions. Страх. And next, результат. Result. Результат. Result. Результат. We have an extra at the end. Результат. And that's all for the vocabulary list. And these words are crucial for our communication, for our when we talk about our Russian learning, why we learn certain things, and describing that. And now, the final part of our show is always the listening part. These kind of go with our listening point earlier. Just listen to this and try to understand. This time we will have Russian and English subtitles. I challenge all of you, listen to it once, focusing on the English subtitles. I'm speaking and you read the English. Don't read both. Maybe even cover the top part of the subtitles. Read the English. Understand what I'm saying. Then play it again and only read Russian. This one won't be as long as the previous ones for that reason. So you can do it twice. So, here we go. Я изучаю английский с самого детства. Мне всегда нравился английский язык. Я его очень любил. И мне нравилось, что я был немного лучше остальных в своем классе. Это был приятный бонус, конечно же. И я рад, что у меня получилось выучить английский язык и говорить на нем свободно. Конечно, сейчас в России это очень востребовано, что ты говоришь по-английски. В любом ресторане, в любой компании всегда будет человек, который знает английский хорошо, и всегда у него будет больше возможностей. Например, если ты официант и говоришь по-английски, то я уверен, что тебя могут нанять на работу в гораздо большем количестве ресторанов. Потому что, например, когда мы с моей женой ходим в рестораны, она говорит по-английски, говорит по-русски, но хуже. То когда у нас есть официант, который говорит и по-русски, и по-английски, всегда это великолепное место, обычно дорогое место. И поэтому да. Но мой путь изучения английского языка был непрост. Ну да, я рад, что я делал те ошибки, которые я делал, потому что я сейчас могу вам рассказать о них, могу вас обезопасить от них, чтобы вы их не совершали. Это очень важно на самом деле, потому что ошибки отнимают у нас время. Если мы часто ошибаемся, то, увы, мы будем дольше учить этот язык. That is all. Hope you've learned something useful. Check out Be Fluent and learn with us with this button right here, or keep on watching our YouTube videos with this next video. It's up to you.